Hello there everybody, welcome to the Entertainment Headquarters, your headquarters where we talk all things entertainment, movies, television, news, reviews, trailer reactions and more. And right now I have to tell you, I'm in awe. I'm still on the come down because I've literally not long got in from seeing Dune Part 2 on the big screen. The biggest screen possible, because that's what you need to do to see this film and its scale, its epic scale. You have to see it on the biggest screen possible. Now, speaking of Dune, what I will say is this. Not everybody likes Dune. I know a lot of people that are like, I'm not sitting in a theatre for 3 and a bit hours to watch a film of this size, because, you know, they are into films that, you know, are all about action. You know, Dune has a bit of action in it. They're all about films that basically, you know, wham bam, thank you, space battles, sword fights, whatever, explosions, boom bang, boom bang. And Dune is a character driven story with quite an interesting, complicated, in-depth plot. And to tell a story of this magnitude, it has to be on a film of this scale, this size, and delivered in such an amazing way. And we had the original Dune way back when. Then we had Dune Part 1 that came out, which, what I will say with Dune is that once in a generation there is a film or a film series that will redefine that generation and help also redefine or add to a genre. So for me, I grew up in the 1980s, and you know, I had lots of amazing films back then. In the late 1970s, it was Star Wars. In the 1980s, I guess it was probably things like The Goonies. And, you know, in the action genre, it would have been First Blood, Rambo. But then, for me, what redefined my childhood was the very first Jurassic Park film. That really set a tone for what films in the future could achieve. The visuals back in the 1990s with Jurassic Park helped redefine a generation, helped redefine cinema, and helped to redefine action-adventure genre. Then in the 2000s, it was The Lord of the Rings for me personally. Them films, like Dune, were on a certain level and achieved a certain greatness that only a handful of films are able to achieve. And for me, the Lord of the Rings trilogy is one of the greatest trilogies ever made. And what Dune has been able to achieve is probably on the same level for me as the Lord of the Rings. That was the trilogy that defined my generation and helped redefine a genre. Now, of course, Dune Part 1 and Part 2 are a new generation-defying film and genre-defying film within sci-fi. You know, 2001 Space Odyssey did it. You know, I would imagine, like, Predator, Aliens, they did it. You know, Independence Day did it in 1996. That was a sci-fi film that really spoke to a lot of people. And there's a lot more I could talk about and a lot more I could bring up. But those films really help to defy a generation And I think Dune Part 1, if not Part 2, more or less Part 2, is the films that are going to redefine a new generation for the epic scales, because of the character-driven story and because of how much effort, time and detailing was put into making these films work. From the epic score from Hans Zimmer, from the amazing direction by Denis Villeneuve, and you know, the cinematography is on a scale like no other. And I guarantee you, not this year of course, but next year's Oscars, it would not surprise me if Hans Zimmer wins the best Oscar for best score. If Denis Villeneuve, he should 100% be up for best director. And the cinematography, that needs to be up for best cinematography at Oscars, because it truly is worth it. For a lot of people, the Dune story will be very complicated to understand. I do believe, you know, that's another reason people won't tune into these films. But I'm going to just read basically, not the plots. Well, the plot is basically following from the books. So I'm going to just read the basic plot synopsis of the first book, because, you know, Dune Part 1 and Dune Part 2 are actually the first book split into two halves. So instead of talking all about the first film and the second film, I'm basically going to combine the plot synopsis from the book and give you the overall story arc. So if you haven't seen Part 1, you kind of have a glimmer of what you're in store for, and of course you'll have a glimmer of what you'd be in store for Part 2. So the overall plot synopsis of Dune Part, you know, the first book, is this. Dune is set far into the future in an intergalactic feudal society where powerful noble houses fight for control over resources, armies and planetary power. House Arturdus is ordered to take control of Arrakis, a barren desert planet with a brutal climate. Arrakis is the only place to mine melange, a natural resource that produces a psychoactive drug called spice, which allows humanity to unlock their minds. On Arrakis, House Arturdus is betrayed by rival House Harkonnen, which sets off a battle over the valuable planet. The planet itself is inhabited by giant sandworms and a native population known as Freemen, who over generations have learned to survive with water as their most precious resource and currency. When House Arturdus Cyclone Paul is targeted as a potential messiah to lead the planet and galaxy towards a new era, an epic story of war, betrayal, mysticism unfolds. So basically that is the plot of both films. It's that one plot that will be the full focus of Dune Part 1 and Dune Part 2. And Denis Villeneuve, he has done an epic job with both of these films, and I'll talk a little bit about the characters in Dune Part 2 and, you know, the characters that really stood out to me the most for this epic story. So Paul Arturdus, played by Timothy Chalamet, you know, Timothy Chalamet, first of all, he has grown from strength to strength in this role. He truly, truly has. From the heir of the family, the Arteris family, to then becoming the leader, to his whole journey arc of self-doubt, no, not believing himself, but then believing himself and wondering if he can do a good job as a leader, to him then finally accepting his destiny, and his connection to the character that of Shanti, played by Zendaya. She as well has grown from strength to strength, and both of these actors have proven how much of a versatile actor and actress they are. Like, his story arc, and I believe he was well cast in this, and I believe he delivered where he needed to deliver in all aspects of the role. I know that there's a lot of haters out there for this actor, for Timothy Chalamet, and I know that a lot of people, weren't rooting for him, but I generally think he's done an excellent job in this, and I think he was perfectly cast as Paul Artidis, and I think Zendaya as Shanti, they work well together. The chemistry between the both of them was fantastic. Sarah Ferguson, who's also in this, who plays, his mother character, who goes on an epic journey of her own, and to see what she goes through and the beautiful scenery with her and her story arc, which I found very, very interesting and very, very unique, and something that I gravitated to, as well as the character of Paul's story. I generally just think every cast member in this has been well cast and is all had time to shine. It reminds me of like the Marvel movies. When they said they were going to do the Avengers, they had done separate movies with each hero, with each actor, and the big thing was, how are we going to convey on screen each Marvel character, each actor, and give them enough screen time to help them, tell the story, to tell the plot, and each character, whether a large amount of screen time or small amount of screen time within those Avenger movies, was given enough time to shine, and each of their performances and whatever their character did helped to drive forward the plot of those movies. And when you're creating a film based off an epic book like Dune, and the entire Dune book series, like the Lord of the Rings previously, how are you going to convey and bring that story to life and give each character enough screen time to help, tell the plot of the book? And I can honestly say that they managed to do that very well throughout the plot, throughout the time of this movie. Each character was given their due, were given their time, and each of them was pivotal to deliver this story. They really were. They all literally helped tell the story, and literally all of them brought the book to life. There's not one bad scene, I don't think, in this. I don't think there's one bad, character out of place. They each fit the chessboard to make this work, and they did it, and it was executed very, very well. Just as strong as the hero's story in this, Paul's story, Chanti's story is important to this. Thea Rothana's story, who was played by Austin Butler, he drove his story fantastically. He was so convincing as the villain in this, and his story arc was completely, showcased to his absolute perfection on screen. Christopher Walken is the Emperor. He delivered a brilliant performance. Florence Pugh, She excels in this. There's not one bad performance, and each of the characters are delivered perfectly, and they've really took the time to bring these books alive, to bring this book alive. And it will not surprise me if there's a part 3 and a part 4, which would be the second book, which is Dune Messiah, which is where the end of this book leads into. I'm trying not to deliver spoilers because I hate when things get spoiled. That's why I can't really giving you the basic plot synopsis. I don't want to talk about many of the things in case I spoil it for your viewing pleasure. But yes, Austin Butler, Christopher Walken, Florence Pugh, alongside, the rest of the cast did an excellent job. There's some cast members who were in the first one that returned for this one. Dave Bautista. I enjoy Dave Bautista. He is the best wrestler turned actor. He always delivers, and he goes out looking for roles that test him as an actor. And he has done an excellent job in all of the films that I've seen him in. Of course, we know him from the Guardians of the Galaxy. We know him from, he was from Blade Runner. He was from the newer version of Blade Runner with Ryan Gosling and, of course, Harrison Ford. He was only in that for a small time, but he definitely delivered in that as well. Knock at the Cabin. I quite enjoyed his performance in Knock at the Cabin. But yes, everyone wants to know about the sandworm scene, because that, we had, if you've seen the first film, or if you've at least seen the trailers, and if you've seen the, the build-up, it's one of the most epic scenes in the books, I believe. And of course, it's been hyped of how are they going to deliver it visually on screen. Well, what I can tell you, it does not disappoint. The sandworm scene where Paul and Chanty are training and learning and adapting, and it gets to the point where they have to ride a sandworm. It is an epic scene. The final confrontation between the two families, the two factions, the two houses, the end battle scene with the sphere, which I do not know, it was done on such a massive visual spectacle level. It's going to be hard to beat. It really is. The cinematography in this is outstanding. The direction is outstanding. The scripting is outstanding. The visuals are outstanding. The characters and the actors have done a fantastic job. Everything is perfecto mundo in this film. It's hard for me to find anything I didn't like about it. I had issues more with the first film than I did the second one. I thought the film, yes, it's 3 hours long. I did see elements of the first film where, even though it was a 3-hour epic, that they could have shortened, they could have had better pacing, where the pacing in part 2 is on a different level, and because it is more action packed and delivers with more, the plot's getting more in depth, the stakes are getting higher, the story's evolving, there's more deceit, there's more lies, there's more revelations, there's more growth, there's more, ongoing, characterizations and character story development, that they can deliver more and push it more forward with part 2, and they did it in leaps and no bounds. So I'm very pleased with part 2. So it's very, very hard for me, like I say, to have a negative. It's a lot more, like I say, the scales are raised very high in this one, higher than the first film. It has a darker kind of tone to it, I think, compared to the first one. It it's more, it's obviously the films have a serious message and serious tones to them, but this one had like a more darker tone to it, in my opinion. And you could feel the gravity of it all, you could feel that, the weight of it all. And like I say, the main character is Paul, and it's all his journey to him heading towards accepting his destiny of being, I guess, a messiah to the people. And for me, it works brilliantly. What I will say, like I've said, there's not much more I can say other than, because this is a straight out of theatre review, like I haven't really spent time really thinking about it or thinking what to say. I'm just spilling the beans that are coming out of us after seeing it in theatres. And like I say, I'm going to rate this a 10 out of 10 for spectacle, for amazing growth in characterization, amazing script, amazing cinematography, visuals out of the park. The visuals knock it out of the park, and it just feels grand. It feels epic. There's other films that have been promoted as grand and epic. Yeah, as an example, last year's The Creator was, promoted or put out there as being a brand new, epic masterpiece in sci-fi cinema. It is a good sci-fi film that has a lot of amazing visuals, has great characters on a certain level, but it doesn't quite hit the mark. There's a lot of predictability in that. There's a lot of things that I've taken from other genres, and the ending for me was very predictable. Where with Dune, everything just feels heavy and epic and on a cinematic level. And the last time I had a feeling like this was probably Avengers Endgame. And that's the honest truth. And before that, it was Lord of the Rings. It was Return of the King. And before then, it was Jurassic Park. So that is the level of epicness that this film has and the weight of it. And there'll be people that probably are naysayers that'll go, oh, well, it's over the top, it's overhyped, it's this and that. But obviously they're people that, in my opinion, don't appreciate the art of massive epic cinema masterpieces. There's a lot of hype about Oppenheimer, how that is another, film that's defied a generation, and rightly so. It is a very good epic movie that had a lot of greatness around it, and it carried a very important weight to it. And I genuinely believe the Dune films are doing that for this generation and of the sci-fi genre as a whole. This is the Dune film that probably, when the writer created this, and the filmmakers way back when, this is what they wanted. This is the kind of film that they were aiming to create, but unfortunately they didn't have the technology or the advances that we have today. And now the true imagination, the true story, the true epicness of what Dune is and what it represents is now fully being visualized on screen. And Denis Villeneuve has done an amazing job of directing this. This is, I think, will go down as his masterpiece. I genuinely believe that. I believe this will be the film series he will forever be, connected with, known for. Basically like Steven Spielberg with Jaws, George Lucas with Star Wars, and Peter Jackson with The Lord of the Rings, Christopher Nolan's with the Dark Knight trilogy. So yes, 10 out of 10 for Dune Part 2. It's a film that I've thoroughly enjoyed, that I'm still kind of on the come down through. And maybe I'll have a different opinion later on. You never know, I could do a blog after this review if I feel any different later on. But straight out of theatre thoughts, straight out of theatre reviews, it's a film that delivered on every level. Scale, epicness, characters, believability, great story. Well done. What did you think of Dune Part 2 if you've seen it? What do you think of the story if you've read the books? Do you prefer the books to the films? What did you think of the performances of the actors? Did they deliver? Did the relationships between and the chemistry between the actors in this epic film, did you enjoy them? Let me know. But Dune Part 2 is, like I say, well worth the money, well worth the praise. And like I always say, keep on enjoying your movies, keep on enjoying your television, keep on enjoying all things entertainment, and I'll catch you all on the next one.